everyone talks about how finances is one of the leading causes for divorce. And I say, it's communication.
Yeah.
Not being able to communicate about your finances is is normally the root issue.
Yeah.
Because emotions do tend to get high and people have different views about how money should be utilized. Like you said, different money mindsets.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to understand each other's mindsets, embrace them, even if we don't agree with them, so that we can create a financial plan that will work for both parties. But once
Yeah.
again, if your emotions are high, pause, ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Address the issue and then continue the conversation.
All right. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Grow Beyond the Budget. I am joined today by the amazing Laura Gethers from Love, Heart, and Marriage Coaching. Laura and I got connected via social media a couple years ago, and we've been able to do a couple collaborations. But I'm really excited to have her on the podcast because what Laura does in her business is something that I truly believe has changed my life and my marriage. And so I would love for Laura to just introduce yourself and tell people who you are, what you do in your own words.
First, thank you for having me. It has been such a joy getting to know you over the past couple of years. And the work that you are doing is generational work. And I just love watching you do what you do. So, hi everyone. I am Laura Gethers. I am the founder of Love, Heart, and Marriage Coaching, where I equip couples with the tools they need so their relationships can succeed. What does that mean? That means that I give people the tools that they need. Let's say if I gave Tiffany a hammer and I gave myself a hammer, Tiffany might use the hammer to pull something up. I might use the hammer to nail something down, but we both have the tool that we need. And that's what I'm all about, giving you tools so that you can learn how to utilize them within your relationship so that you can build the foundation and the format that is going to work for your relationship. Once again, Tiffany, I am so thankful to be here and I can't wait to have this conversation.
Yes, I again just love everything that you're doing, and truly the work that you do is also generational, right? I know so many people who have grown up seeing unhealthy relationships in their families and in their lives, and they have to kind of unlearn and relearn how to have healthy relationships, and not just romantic relationships, right? In all different types of relationships, and so the work that you're doing is also changing generations. But one of the reasons why I wanted to have Laura on today is my husband and I, when we got married, we didn't have conversations around money and finance and things like that. And so we had to work things out the hard way. I wish I had known Laura Gethers. It would have been a much easier path for us to get there, because when we used to have conversations about money, I used to be the one that was super defensive. My husband wanted to make a budget and stick to it, and I was the one that was very, very resistant and hesitant. And once I was able to really I talk about how I had this vision of what I wanted my life to look like. Once I had that sort of like aha moment and that life shift, we were able to really start to come together and have hard conversations about money. And through the years, we've been able to deepen and strengthen those conversations around, what our values are, what our mission is for our family, and the things that we're working for, and how to make sure that we're aligning our finances to that. And having all of those tough conversations about money have allowed us to have even harder conversations about different things that are going on in the world, in our parenting, how we're showing up for each
Yes.
other, because we were able to do that hard thing. So again, what you're doing is truly something that can change people's lives, because I have seen it work in my own. And so I love, love, love what you do. And so can you just share just a little bit more about your approach to relationship coaching and how to start getting those tools? One of the things that you always say, which I absolutely love, is you help couples fight the issues and not each other. And so can you talk a little bit more about like how your approach is different and what that means?
When I tell couples to attack the issues and not each other, what I'm hoping they are hearing is they are equipped, they are called to be a couple, right? And if you served on any type of team, whether it's an academic team or a sports team, your goal is to function together so that you can win. And so, what I want couples to think about, what I want them to strategize about, is how do we attack the issue? How do we take this mindset that we are not the issue? Our behaviors may be the issue,
Yeah.
and we need to learn how to address them in a healthy way. But at the end of the day, there is something that is dividing us. There is something that is causing us to respond to one another this way. And we need to find out what that issue is so that we can work together as problem solvers and figure out how we can navigate through that so that our relationship continues to stand. I love it. I love putting couples in interactive, non threatening environments and allowing them to figure out how to operate as one. How do we come together as one unit and stay that way no matter what we face?
Yes, I love it. And something that you just mentioned is about, the behaviors might be the issue, but it's not the person themselves. And one of the things that I noticed from my own experience is that when I was doing something that, my husband didn't like, or something that he wanted me to change, I would get super defensive, right? So when I would make those trips to Target or like buy some stuff on Amazon, he'd be like, okay, what is this? And I'd be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, and again, like, he wanted me to change that behavior. But I saw it as like a personal attack on who I was and my character. And I saw that in the finances. You can see that in parenting. You can see that in so many different areas, and in your other family dynamics, right? And like how you are
Yes.
in relation to your family members. And there's so many behaviors that we might need to change, but we start to take those things as a personal attack. So what is one of the ways that you start to help people disarm and separate their behavior from, it being a personal attack on them and their character?
I love this question. I think this question is something that I hope everyone is going to listen
Yeah.
to.
Right.
You disarm, first and foremost, you let your partner know that you are for them,
Mm-hmm.
not against them. That's the first thing. You create an opportunity or an environment where they can be vulnerable, where they feel safe. How do you do that? You show empathy. You use kind words. You talk about the behavior. So instead of your husband saying, you are such a lousy saver, he could say, Target is not allowing us to accomplish our goal in savings if you keep going there.
Yeah.
Tiffany, say no to Target. Say no to Amazon. Say no to wherever you are shopping, because this is preventing us from accomplishing X, Y, and Z goal, which makes me go back to something that I will stand on and I will repeat until my last breath. You have to have a marital mission and vision statement. You have to know where you are going as a couple, because then you have an automatic method to disarm your spouse. This is what we said we were trying to do. So how is this behavior helping us accomplish this goal?
Yeah.
And if you both have agreed that this is what you are setting out to accomplish, then guess what? It may be hard. That person may have to swallow their pride, but at the end of the day, they will have to reflect on the fact that you said you were going to accomplish this goal together, and the behavior that they are producing is hindering you from accomplishing that goal.
Yep.
So if you don't have a mission, vision, statement, and goals, I will highly encourage you to create one, because that holds you both accountable. And if your behaviors begin to drift outside of those lines, outside of that path that is going to get you to that goal, then you can have a conversation. Hey, 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 let's sit down. Let's rehash this conversation. This is what we said we were trying to accomplish. So let's get back on a path towards accomplishing that goal.
I absolutely love that. And we've gone live and we talked about this before about, the marriage and the money piece and where to start. If you and your partner aren't on the same page, um, that is always the best place, right? The goals, the vision, the mission. What are we working on? What are we working towards? And it's the same thing with your finances. So,
Yes.
I had my own vision of what I wanted my life to look like. And then I brought that to my husband. I was like, okay, this is what I saw. And he was like, yes, that's what I want now. And I don't even know at that time if he could articulate that that's what he wanted, because we never really
Hmm.
had that conversation. We were both just kind of operating in autopilot, just kind of going through the days, going through the motion, just letting life happen instead of being proactive and intentional about it. But once we had that discussion, it was able to be that North Star for us in all the decisions that come afterwards, because we were able to really clarify what we were working towards. And then something else that we do now, I've been married for 11 years. I don't know if I said that on this podcast yet, but it'll be 11 years, September 28th. But one of the things that we do and that we've done ever since our first anniversary was have a marriage review. We've always checked in with each other
Yes.
and to see, how do you feel? Like, what's the temperature check on our marriage? Is there any way that, I could support you in this particular season? Is there anything that you wish I could do differently? What is working well, what's not working. We have these like marriage check-ins, and that is another time where we are able to start to look at this vision and this mission. Now that we have it, okay, how are we moving this needle towards what it is that we're accomplishing? And so, not just having that conversation once, this is an ongoing conversation that you need to have with
Ongoing.
your partner.
Yeah. And I would even, I mean, I don't know about you, but when I set goals, I have action steps that are holding me accountable to eventually accomplishing that goal. For example, when I wrote my latest journal, I knew that there was a deadline that in which I wanted to accomplish this goal. So then I worked backwards. What do I need to do to make sure when this date hits, this goal is accomplished? And then I did weekly check-ins.
Mm-hmm.
Am I on the path to help me reach this goal? And if not, what do I need to do? Some nights that meant I had to stay up a little later,
Yeah.
get up a little earlier. But we have to check in. I believe that you should, if not do quarterly check ins, I recommend monthly check-ins, but if not, you should do quarterly check-ins to make sure that make sure that you're on that path. And if there are things that need to be tweaked, if there are things that need to be reconsidered, then you have an opportunity to make those adjustments because life happens,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we want to make room for life to happen and still be able to accomplish a realistic goal.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Um, you, I think there's a difference between like a vision and a goal, right? So your vision is big with
Yes.
that, like when you're taking a step back, you're seeing the full picture. It's the forest, it's not the trees. And then when you start to think about your goals, right, those are the things that you're like, okay, this is a milestone. This is a very specific
Yes.
like metric or milestone or something that I'm going to hit, and that is easier to create those action steps so that you can work towards it. And then, yeah, like having these regular check-ins. Okay, how am I doing? So yeah, we do the annual overview, but if you follow me on Instagram, me and my husband are serious about our Sundays. We do our
Yes, you
Sunday
are.
resets, right? And we look at our budget, we look at the schedule, we do our meal planner, all these like little tiny things that happen. We're checking in on a regular basis to make sure that we are going in the right direction. And again, that way you don't get, and sometimes we don't do it. Last week I had errands to run, so we didn't do it last week, right? But we made it such a habit that it happens more often than not. We've created the space and environment for those things to be a routine thing and not just a one-off,
Yes.
so that it can be part of our lives. And again, we can move that needle towards the goals that we're set. Now,
Mm-mm.
Laura, I love having conversations with you about, money and marriage, because, my story with my husband was, we went through premarital counseling. We talked about money a little bit. We were like, okay, this is what we're going to do. But that was not the conversation at all. And I love, for anybody who might be single or who is not quite married yet, I love how you and your husband approached your finances before you even got married. So can you just share your experience, because it's completely different from mine, but it's so so healthy and so valuable.
Thank you. I will say, Tiffany, I think I shared with you that I grew up like with a poverty mentality, which we can talk about a little bit later. But when I knew that I wanted to have good credit and I wanted to have money in the bank. And so when my husband proposed to me, we decided that we were going to buy a house, which I think, when I reflect, I think that was the best thing for us. So instead of a honeymoon, we used our money to purchase our first home. And in that process, you have to get credit scores. You see financial history and financial patterns. And I'm happy to say that we were neck and neck for who had the highest credit scores. And we were, high up in those 700s. And so that let me know that we both had the same value towards our credit. That let me know that we had the same values toward building a healthy financial future. And so we've never had an argument about finances. And that's not true. The argument wasn't about our finances in particular, but it was about just our giving patterns. I am a giver. And so my husband had to say, you know what, we have a goal, so we're going to have to cut back on giving. And now the role is reversed. Like, he is a super giver. If somebody has a need, he's ready to go. I was like, whoa, 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 honey, we have a goal that we need to look at before we send out that money, which I'm thankful that we both are givers. But what I noticed, Tiffany, and I reached out to, was it last year? I
Mhm.
believe it was last year we had this conversation. And I said I wanted to give a testimony about this, and I will. But last year we were just looking at our finances, and we decided that we wanted to purchase a home. And before, we stayed within our budget. Like, we pay off our credit cards in totality every month. We don't spend more than what we have. That's just how we operate, because I don't want the pressure of owing no man anything.
Mhm.
I want the freedom that comes along with being good stewards over our finances. And so I noticed that we weren't overspending, but it didn't mean that we were using our money in the best ways. And so then when you sent me over the budget template, we were able to look at, okay, these are ways that we can move money towards the purchase of our new home, which we were able to do because we were able to pinpoint areas where we could cut back, or pinpoint areas that we no longer needed. And those monies were now reallocated towards our house savings goal. And we were able to do it. And so I'm just so thankful that even though we don't necessarily have poor money management, we were open to say that we can do better, and we chose to do better.
Yeah. I'm so excited for you. Thanks for sharing that. And I'll make sure that I put the template that I shared with Laura in the show notes for this episode. But one of the things that, I think it's in the book, Atomic Habits, right? You have to standardize before you optimize. And when you're coming into a relationship, marriage, anything that's new, really, we have to like create a standard. We have to get a cadence. We have to get a stride. And then once you have that rhythm and you have that pattern, it's like, okay, how can I make it better? How can I make it be even more intentional? How can I, and that's one of the approaches that I take to finances. I think a lot of times when people think about their money, that means like, oh, I'm going to stop. I used to go to Target almost every day, and now I'm not going to go to Target at all. I see people like so delusional with their, restaurants, and they're eating out, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna cut this in half this month. And it's like, we have to make sure that we are being, mindful and intentional about how we're making these adjustments, and make them in ways that are sustainable and a lifestyle shift that you can actually hit those goals and milestones that you're trying to achieve. So, Laura, thank you so much for sharing that. I love that. So, something that you mentioned though when you were talking about it, your relationship, well, when you went into your marriage, is that you had a poverty mindset. And there are so many of us who have struggled or are still struggling with, a poverty mindset, scarcity, lack mindset traits. And so, that can send you into, is that fight or flight? Like, I'm going to fight or I'm going to fight, right? And then what was that transition for you to, like, with your husband, coming from a place where you're like, okay, I'm going to protect this credit, I'm not letting anything happen to it, and to where you are now, and again, just being more like into that abundance mindset where you're giving and being good stewards of your money.
Tiffany, I don't think I recognized it was a poverty mindset until my husband, he was like, hey, we're going to move this money around. I was like, whoa, we don't have the savings that I'm comfortable with. Like, it's still, the money's still there. It's just in a money market account. Like, I need to be able to have access to my money. I don't need to wait weeks or months in order for me to have access to it. But I noticed anytime lack was presented, there was something happening on the inside of me that I knew was not natural. And so I was listening to a teaching one day, and I heard this lady talking about these feelings or these emotions or these thought processes that we go through when we feel like things are being taken away from us. And that was the first time I was introduced to the poverty or scarcity mindset. And so she offered this course that was so freeing. I paid that money to take that course because I knew that's what I was dealing with. And the I don't know, it was challenging. It was challenging to really dig into why do you feel that way? And it's because not that I grew up without, but I knew we didn't have a lot. I knew that my mom had to work two jobs. I knew that, my father couldn't give as much or wasn't in a position to give as much as we needed as a family. And so I have five siblings, and I'm the oldest. And so as the oldest, you get to see a lot. I've seen my mom wait until everyone else ate, and then she would eat. Like, I've seen those type of things, and I never wanted to be in that position. And so therefore, there were some things that I internalized that I didn't realize I had internalized, but it started showing up when transitions would happen in the relationship. And I'm like, why were you like that? It's not like you were about to go bankrupt. It's not like you didn't have any savings. But when I started seeing money leave too abruptly, it festered something on the inside of me. And so I dug deep into what is this that I'm experiencing.
Yeah. And I think there's so many things that, we catch, right? And sometimes we don't even realize that we are internalizing the things that we experience growing up and how that manifests in our lives as adults. And like you said, like, the money leaving abruptly, or for me it was, just not ever feeling stable. We moved a lot, right? And so, like, I wanted to have a house and be in my home forever, right? Because I didn't have that stability. And growing up, there's so many little things that can happen to us that will force us to make decisions. But when it comes to, like, the scarcity and, like, versus the abundance mindset, I almost think of it like this. When you are in, like, that scarcity, poverty, lack mindset, a lot of times I want you to think about if you were running away from something, right? If you are running away from something,
Mm.
there's a completely different response in your body. Your pupils dilate, your heart, your adrenaline is pumping, your brain, like, part of your brain, I can't remember which parts, don't make me, I'm gonna look it up, but parts of your brain shut down, so that you lose, like, your logical thinking and your focus. You have no room for error, right? And so you are running away from something. One mistake can be fatal. And a lot of times when we're stuck in those poverty and lack mindset traits, we feel the same way about our finances. We don't have any room
Yes.
for error. We're running away from whatever we experienced in our past at any means. And sometimes it can turn off our logical parts of our brain. And so even when we're achieving things, right, whether it's good credit, achieving things within our career, we don't want to risk that because we are too afraid of what's behind us. Versus, like, that abundance mindset, when you're running towards something. If you think of a runner, right, their body, their posture is completely different. They find their stride. They can see all of the things that are going around them. They leap over hurdles with no effort. The things can come and they're like, it's fine. Even if the hurdle falls, they still keep going, right? And so that changes the perspective. And so when we're thinking about, like, scarcity and lack mindset traits versus, like, the abundance mindset trait, really start to take inventory and assess, like, you're thinking, are you running away from something, or are you running towards the life that you want? And I think
That's
that's
good, Tiffany. You can't just say that and then move on. That's good.
and so, we really do have to kind of assess, where our mindset is. And then also when we're thinking about, like, our relationships and our partner, understanding that they have their their history, their mindset trauma, their money mindset traumas, their experiences that they're bringing to your relationship also, that we have to find a way to work together so that we're running towards the same thing.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I've never heard that example. That's a great example.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so we're talking about like money and emotions and things like that. Like sometimes emotions can be really high when we're having these conversations about money. What are some of the tools and techniques that I think we talked about that, right? Disarming your spouse and helping them to become more vulnerable. But if they find themselves in a spot where the emotions are running high and the conversation is getting a little heated, what do you suggest people do to kind of level set and move forward with a healthy conversation?
Pause. Pause and state when you are going to continue the conversation. Don't just get up and leave and never come back to that conversation, because that's only going to add layers to the issue.
Yeah.
But take a moment and pause. And while you are pausing, if you are the person whose emotions are high, ask yourself why. Why am I feeling this way? And then if the issue is you, because there is maybe some traumas or some triggers that happen in that conversation inside of you, then deal with them. But if your spouse is doing something that is causing you to feel that way, you also need to address them so
Mm-hmm.
that they are aware, hey, maybe I need to reword it. Maybe I need to use less hand signals or facial expressions, whatever it is. Like, have a conversation with them so that you can have a healthy conversation about your finances. Everyone talks about how finances is one of the leading causes for divorce. And I say, it's communication.
Yeah.
Not being able to communicate about your finances is normally the root issue,
Yeah.
because emotions do tend to get high and people have different views about how money should be utilized. Like you said, different money mindsets.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to understand each other's mindsets, embrace them, even if we don't agree with them, so that we can create a financial plan that will work for both parties. But once
Yeah.
again, if your emotions are high, pause, ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Address the issue, and then continue the conversation.
That's good. Again, this is why I wish I would have had a Laura Gethers to get me to get me together when we first got married, when we were spiraling into all of the debt that we had, because the conversations would get very heated. And my husband worked in sales, so like our income will fluctuate. We would have some really great months, and then there would be times where it was like we needed to be a little bit more intentional, and they were like leaner times. And one of the things, and I love what you just said, like it's not necessarily the finances that's the issue, it's the communication. And when my husband would come to me about like anything, I would get defensive, right? Which means me like like I got the attitude. I'm like, I need this, right? And then he's coming at me, and I felt like he was coming at me like a parent or like something. I felt like I was being
Mm.
reprimanded. And so his tone, like with my energy, it just was really bad. And so we would just pause and be like, okay, you know what, we're done with this. And we never revisited those conversations. And so what you're saying is, I'm sure somebody can relate to this, right? You've gone into a conversation and it went left real quick. And so just giving yourself the space to pause, be like, you know what, and we do that now, right? Like, you know what, I'm gonna put a pin in this, we're gonna come back. I need a break. Like, I can feel myself going up. I'm gonna go ahead and cool off, and then we can come back to that. But I love even just being intentional about when you're gonna come back to this. Okay, let's talk about this after the kids go to bed, after I had a chance to decompress. Let's talk about this, like, in the morning after I can sleep it off, whatever it is. But make sure that you go, like, you are very intentional about setting the time to go back and talk about it. This is
Yes.
why Lord
Because
knows.
they were like, oh, table the issues, just table them, agree to disagree. You can't successfully do that in marriage.
Yeah.
You can have different perspectives, but there has to be a place of agreement when you're talking about issues.
Yeah.
This is how we're going to proceed. If that means that both of you are giving up something or you're compromising in order for this to happen, then so be it. But you can't keep tabling issues. If not, you're going to have a whole bunch of tables in your house.
Yeah. I
Can't
just think
move
about like
around.
how all of those things can snowball into larger
Yes.
issues, right? And that snowball will turn into an avalanche. And now you're dealing with all of these things that you've just been trying to sweep under the rug for so long. And it's really hard to repair that damage. So yeah, I love that. Just stop tabling it and talk about it.
Stop. And create financial intimacy.
Yeah.
Like, I think when you do have a financial plan and you understand what you're trying to accomplish together, that creates that intimacy. Like, we're working together as a team, camaraderie, friendship. We are in this together to build something that will hopefully outlive us, something that we can pass down to the next generation. And so when you're creating that intimacy, you're able to see your spouse's weakness or areas of growth opportunity, right? We're able to see them in a different dynamic, and that allows us to know them a little bit more deeply. And sometimes we forfeit the opportunity to have that closeness with our spouse because we don't want to be uncomfortable. Be uncomfortable for a short season so that you can experience that closeness together. And financial intimacy not only draws you closer together, but it helps you build something that will sustain your family for generations to come.
Yes, absolutely love that. And yeah, I mean, again, like, my husband and I, we started with running away from something, but now we're running towards something. We're starting to see the fruits of our labor when our kids are having conversation about, okay, did we budget for this? What? I love, like, it makes my
Come on
heart cry,
ahead.
right? When my kids are talking about investing and things like that, and like, just planting those seeds in them, that has helped us, understand that what we are doing is not in vain. And again, it will outlive us
Yes.
because we were able to do that hard thing. We were able to have those hard conversations in the beginning, get on that budget and stick with it, pay off the debt. We were able to start doing those things and really start to build wealth. And now we're starting to see some fruit. So make sure that you, as like you said, having that financial intimacy is so important, and getting on the same page with your spouse and your partner. Because I know a lot of couples too who are working on two different pages. You over here working on this, and they're over here working on that. And it's so much easier and better when you are able to come together. Yeah. Thank you so much, Laura, for joining me on this podcast. Please, please, please tell the people how they can connect with you, what you have coming up, how they can work with you if they are ready to start attacking the issues and not each other. Just quickly share all of the things.
So you can find me on social media at Love Harder Marriage Coaching. And if you want to go to my website, lauragethers.com, to see what upcoming events I have or to schedule a coaching session, I invite you to do so. Once again, Tiffany, thank you. I always enjoy our conversations, and it is my hope that this episode allows people to begin to have the conversation about finances in a healthy way.
Yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Laura. All right. Well, until next time, you all keep growing. I hope that you enjoyed this conversation with Laura Gethers. She is a phenomenal woman at what she does. And so when we're having this conversation about your relationship and your finances, I want you to remember what we said, right? One of the first and best ways to start is having a conversation about your vision and your goals for your finances. Make sure that you and your partner are on the same page when it comes to what you are working on financially. Then you can start to go through your values and your money story and figuring out, okay, well, how did you grow up? How did you grow up? Okay, and figure out where those differences are. If you are having conflicts in your finances, figuring out where those differences and those conflicts are coming from, what childhood experiences, what has happened in the past, what are they running away from, what are they running towards that is driving their financial behaviors. I always also tell people, do what is best for you. So if putting all of your money together is something that works for you, then go ahead and do that. But if you want to keep some of your money separate and allocate money that way, that is fine too. I just want you to make sure that you are working together in some capacity to help your dreams come true. So until next time, you all keep growing financially, and I will see you in the next episode.